See, Click, Fix. This is your baby. Where does this come from?
It started in New Haven about 4.5 years ago. It started because I was having a little bit of frustration getting in touch with New Haven City Hall.
Because you wanted to fix infrastructure.
Pretty much.
So you came up with this, and it was graffiti. Initially, you said, we should take care of this graffiti.
Right.
So you couldn't get a hold of City Hall, so then what did you do?
So yeah, a few voicemails in, I was trying to report this tag on my neighbor's building and get it resolved. And I started talking to a couple friends who are now co-founders, Miles Lassiter and Cam Lassiter and Jeff Blasius, and started teasing out this idea of maybe making these requests to the city public so that we could all talk about them as neighbors. And we sat down on a weekend and we built a little web app in about 4 hours.
Okay, that's not an easy thing to do, to build a web app.
That's true.
So you're a web developer, so you had some know-how
I did.
about
I
how
had a
to
little.
do this.
I'm not the best web developer, though.
That's okay. That we can take a pass on that. But you wanted to do good, if you will, in your hometown of New Haven. Now, you left here a little bit. You grew up here.
Yep.
You left. You went to L.A.
DC,
LA,
yep.
did some other stuff. You came back to be a lifer in New Haven and decided we should fix our city. So how was See, Click, Fix born, and what was the first thing that you fixed?
What was the first thing we fixed? So I think the first issue that was reported was actually a clogged storm drain. Issue number one is a clogged storm drain in front of my home. It did take 3 years for that to be fixed, but in all fairness, there was some back and forth, public back and forth because of See, Click, Fix around whether it just needed to be drained or if there was some kind of failing infrastructure below the street.
So what else do people record? Potholes, graffiti, storm sewers, drains, what else?
Streetlights that are out, general infrastructure flaws or failures that could be fixed. But also, you know, people really have gotten into using the tool to report things that they want improved. So maybe they want a mural, or they want a crosswalk, or they want some kind of cycling improvement. These are all things that people are documenting on the site and suggesting would make the public space better, not just fix it, but improve it.
So Ben, you sat around with your team and said, let's put up this website, seeclickfix.com, and we're looking at it now.
Yep.
And it looks really easy, like it's a no-brainer. If I want to put something in there, anybody can do it of any age, even if you're not that web savvy.
Right.
So when you put this up, what was the initial response from city government in New Haven? Oh boy, here we go. Was that the response?
So, you know, it probably was internally, but no one publicly said that in New Haven, and I think that was really responsible of the city to say, to swallow their pride a bit and say that something from the outside has brought citizens into our doors, and it's not necessarily our job to bring citizens into our doors, but when they come in, it is our job to respond. And the city of New Haven actually has done a really good job at not only embracing but nurturing this bottom-up platform. The first time I really used See, Click, Fix, aside from these storm drains in front of my house, was to report graffiti on the street. This guy had gone out and he had tagged up like 18 businesses and private homes, and you know, this wasn't street art, this was him writing his name on people's businesses, and those people didn't want that there, and I was the head of the business association at the time, so I publicly documented it on the site, and I had this general sneaking suspicion that like this wasn't actually going to solve anything, this See, Click, Fix thing that we had built, but that at least I had a place to document it, right? So I had a place to vent. And I went out 4 hours, less than 4 hours after I documented them that morning, and there were people out on the street cleaning up the graffiti. 3 of the tags were already gone. I got to the now Power gas station at Humphrey and State. The guys were there, and I talked to them and I said, who are you? Because these are the people I'd been trying to contact, obviously.
For 3 years, you said?
For years, yeah. For years. And they said, well, our boss or the people we contract with is the city of New Haven, and they got this message from this website, because the way SeeClickFix works is that we will send emails to city departments letting them know when an issue is reported, and so they came out and responded to it, and there's no denying that it's because it was public that the city responded, and there's no denying that it was because the tool is easy to use, that so many citizens followed along after me and started using the platform to connect.
We live in a world in which we want to share everything, good, bad, indifferent. So SeeClickFix.com has a great chance to be successful, and is, because we are so social, sharing everything.
Right.
This is now in how many cities across the country?
So tens of thousands of cities across the world. We have about 80 plus city clients that are buying services from us to increase the functionality of the tool for themselves. And we're talking about cities as big as Houston, New York City.
How did you get all these cities to embrace this, starting this in New Haven, Connecticut? How'd you do that?
Through citizens and through our media partners. And then lastly, through a network of really progressive and caring government officials who talk to each other and say, this thing is working, it is helping our reputation, it is helping us engage citizens, it is helping citizens feel more confident in us, and it's making our cities better. And that spreads really quickly when that happens. But obviously 4.5 years ago, when sharing was cool in our social lives but not cool in our municipal lives in any way or accepted, we did have to really go with a bottom-up strategy where citizens could use the tool, and not only could they report something, but they could sign you up if you were a government official. So we had citizens translating the site in the Ukraine, in other parts of Asia, in Saudi Arabia.
How does that make you feel?
It's pretty awesome.
You've gotten this into cities around the world.
Yeah.
When you sit back, do you think, and it's also a burden because you've got to really stay on top of this now, because you said this is going to be your life's work.
Right. You're
going to make hometown anywhere in the world better.
Yeah.
That's a big, big job.
Yeah, it is. It is a big job. There's I think a part of all of us at the company, there's 14 people at the company now that know that we are generally doing the right things to make this be as good as it can be, but there's another more humble part of us that knows that this is happening because this is what the world wants. The world wants to be social. Social doesn't just mean connecting with other people, it means doing something for the good of society. People care about their neighborhoods more and more. And they need a way to communicate about it, and that way to communicate is not going to be leaving a voicemail on City Hall's machine and having your neighbor leave a parallel voicemail and not having any kind of communication.
What are we looking at here? Some of the socialness that's going on your site?
Yeah, absolutely. So the actual screen that's up now is a feature that's being tested in New Haven. New Haven is for all intents and purposes
ground zero.
Ground zero for SeeClickFix. And this is the social question and answer part of SeeClickFix. So we realized that we help tackle this service request problem. For governments, these are service requests, the things that we've talked about: potholes, graffiti, streetlights. So
because those aren't sexy things. So you all of a sudden made, hey, you can report this, kind of a sexy thing, because you have how many people that have signed up to this?
Yeah, hundreds of thousands. Yeah.
Who knew a pothole would be so sexy?
Right, but it's the gateway drug to civic engagement, right? And so you get this low barrier to entry. People come on, and there's a feedback loop from government or from neighbors saying thank you for speaking up, and here's a real resolution, and your iPhone actually changed something in the real world that you can see every day on your walk or bike or drive to work. And so what we started to see is, like, you tackle this one problem, and there's all this very, very local, like block level social change that's happening around this issue, and information that's coming from neighbors. And so we thought, well, there's also all these questions that are going into government, and so maybe you know the place. Maybe the city of New Haven can tell you a place that you can go swimming for free in the summer, but maybe there's 5 other citizens that can also tell you 5 other places
so
where
they're
you can go.
talking to each other about other things besides infrastructure.
Right.
So you're getting town to town, country to country, talking to each other.
So that's the idea that's exactly right. And so that we can do some real information sharing and best practices for what makes communities great, and what are the solutions to real problems at a local level, sometimes as mundane as a pothole.
So the White House calls at some point, and they say what? They want you to come to the White House to do what?
Yeah, so our most recent interaction with the White House, and
most recent?
Yeah,
so
there's
you've had
been a
many.
few. Yeah, absolutely.
You say humbly.
So we're really lucky that this White House really embraced the Transparency Initiative, and much of our success has to do with this White House embracing what they call the Open Data Initiative, and a lot of the principles at a federal level that would be reflected in a see-click-fix fashion at a local level. And so we've worked closely with the federal government on creating an open standard called Open 311, which may be too geeky and techie, but it's an open data standard for connecting citizens and governments around customer service.
Look what a kid from New Haven has done. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a good place.
Where does this go from here? You talk to the White House, you're trying to get people to connect, to do good, to make our infrastructures in our hometowns across the world better. Where do you see this going as it grows and more people get online? And do you have competition already?
Yeah, so we don't have any competition at a global platform scale. There's certainly, whenever you deal with municipalities, or whenever you deal with anything that is local globally, you're going to have competition locally, right? So there are going to be homegrown applications. And that's great. I mean, that validates the model. Is there anything that makes us scared right now? No.
There will be at some point, I'm sure.
I'm sure there will be. You know, in the beginning, we were always worried that Google was going to do this or Microsoft was going to do this.
Will Google buy this?
I don't know. It's not. We don't think about that too much.
Did you build it to sell it?
No, we didn't build it to sell it. You know, that, of course, when you're in a startup and you take venture capital, people ask you that all the time. And it's not something that's top of radar right now.
Let's say they bought it, then what?
Yeah. That's the hardest question for me, because I am totally in love with the product and the users and the people I work with. And for me, if the fictional they bought it, they would have to have very similar values to us, and we would have to be, very certain that a buyout would not compromise the social layer that lies under see-click-fix.
So this is obviously making money. You've got a team of 14.
Yeah.
Has all of the state embraced this pretty much, the state of Connecticut?
So,
I mean, we're talking globally, but has pretty much the state embraced this?
Yeah. I don't know that every city's embraced it.
And does it cost them to embrace it?
It doesn't cost them anything to embrace it, no.
So the money comes from sponsors?
Right. So they can pay to have additional services which would replace things that they are already using in government. So as an example, most governments have a customer request management system. That's a way of telling who's communicating with you and managing all the responses and tracking data as to how many potholes come in and that kind of thing. Most cities have that. We have not replaced that in most cities in Connecticut, nor is it our intent to.
Getting back to the White House, what did you do there in your most recent trip there?
So we were invited there by a gentleman who is now, I'm sure I'm going to butcher his title, but he's a special advisor to the president, and he advises on citizen engagement and social innovation. Jonathan was previously he was the founder of water company, a sustainable water company that sold to Starbucks.
So he saw what you were doing. You came up in your sneakers.
That's right. That's right. No, they weren't sneakers.
Oh, you didn't
I
wear
was
sneakers,
misreported.
Because that's kind of your, you've got them on now.
I do.
And so you did what?
They were white bucks.
All right. So you did a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
To whom? It was live streamed? What
So
happened?
it was actually a Prezi, which
Okay.
is the new PowerPoint. It was to an audience of citizens from around the country who are doing great things in their community to help engage people and help to make communities better. I didn't even realize that it was live streamed until I was getting tweeted at while presenting.
They didn't tell you it was live and you were just talking.
And my employees were texting me.
So as we wrap up here, seeclickfix.com. Get on, play with it, see what's going on. People are engaging.
Yeah.
Next steps for seeclickfix?
Yeah, so one, I would say that folks should definitely download the mobile application for their iPhone or the Android.
So when they see something,
it makes a huge difference. I mean, if you're right in front of it, you're going to use the application. At the end of the day, this is a utility, right? And you should use it as a utility to actually resolve real problems. The social question and answer platform is being rolled out in New Haven, and we'll slowly be rolling it out in other cities over the next 6 months.
And what does that mean exactly?
It means
or can you not tell me?
No, I can. Yeah, we're totally open about everything. If someone wants to try to steal it, we'll go up against
So
them.
what does that mean?
It means that if you want to know what time the library is open in New Haven or Hampden, you can go to SeeClickFix and you can search that and you can find it, and it will not only search our knowledge base similar to Google, but it'll actually ask other users on the platform, and they can answer that question.
So that's a little different from seeing something, clicking, and fixing. That's informational. Does it have to have sort of another name, or?
No, we're going to keep it. We think we'll keep it under the same brand. But you're right. We do have a strong brand under SeeClickFix. So.
Right, but now it's more informational. It's more info line, if you will.
Right. But the crowdsourcing or harnessing your neighbors as the crowd is still intrinsic to the success of this, right? Because these people who really care about your neighborhood enough to report broken infrastructure are likely also the people who know enough about your neighborhood to tell you where you can get help with your taxes, or where when the library is open, or when the swimming pool, public swimming hours are, or how do I start a small business in New Haven, and all these kind of things that lead to a more informed citizenry.
Well, I think it's awesome.
Thanks.
Ben, thanks for coming on. You're one to watch. I mean, you've already accomplished a lot, and I appreciate it. SeeClickFix.com. Thanks.
Thanks.